So you're planning your backyard wedding, and maybe you're trying to keep it a little bit more budget friendly, and maybe you're doing the majority of the planning yourself and didn't quite realize how many little decisions and big ones there are to make when you're planning your own wedding. Hello, my name is Kim, and a year and a half ago, I got married and my husband and I had a backyard wedding in the Hudson Valley. This isn't the typical kind of content that I post here on my channel, but when I got married, I wanted to do this series of sharing every detail that I could about planning my own backyard wedding, because let me tell you, it was a lot. And I figure there's probably plenty of other people that are in my shoes doing the same. But after we got married, I kind of got sidetracked and I didn't put out as many videos as I wanted to. But after recently looking through my analytics, to be quite honest, I saw that one of those wedding videos is the second most viewed video on my channel. So I figured maybe there's a lot of people out there that are planning a backyard wedding, especially with 2024 coming. So I thought, let me pick up where I left off and share some details. I think backyard weddings are amazing. I think that they are so special, and one of the things that I love most about them is you can really do whatever you want. There's really no rules. The entire time that I was planning, I did exactly what I wanted. I did what worked for my husband and I, and the whole time, all I kept thinking about was, how can I make this the most fun and relaxed environment for all of the special guests that were attending? And before I continue, let me just say this. This whole video is subjective. These are all my very personal opinions. And like I said, that's the beauty of a backyard wedding. You can do whatever you want. So maybe some of these tips and ideas will work for you, and maybe they won't. And if you don't like the ideas that I have and the things that I did, that is totally okay. That is why a backyard wedding is so great, because you can do what you want and what works for you. So if you're trying to plan your backyard wedding on a budget, what are some things that I think are worth spending a little bit more money on, and what are some things that maybe you can forego altogether or just find more budget-friendly alternatives for? First thing on the list for me that was a non-negotiable was an amazing photographer. Of course, with your regular wedding in a big fancy venue, of course you're gonna have a photographer, but I feel like sometimes when we're trying to plan a backyard wedding, we're trying to save money where we can. I have seen a lot of people talk about not hiring a photographer. Now, I work in the wedding business. I'm a makeup artist, and my job is to make sure that, of course, the bride and all of her bridesmaids and moms look amazing in person, but we also really want to think about the photos. So I am all for having an amazing photographer. In my opinion, the last thing that I wanted was relying on people's iPhones to capture my wedding day. I also wanted the whole experience of everybody getting ready in the morning and the photographer going to the guys and then coming to my room. I wanted the first look with my dad captured. I really wanted beautiful photos of the entire day. So hiring an amazing photographer, and thankfully I knew one. I've worked with her for years. I absolutely love her. She flew up from Florida to do it for me. I could not have anybody else but her. I will say something that I didn't invest in, and now looking back, I kind of wish I did. I regret it a little bit. I didn't have a videographer. At the time, I cared much more about the photos. And now looking back, I do kind of wish that we had a wedding video. Of course, I have all of the videos on people's phones that were sent to me, but I think it would have been nice to have a professional video done. If I still were to choose one or the other, I would still choose photography. For me personally, I just think there's something so special about being able to capture a moment through a photograph. The next thing that we would not skimp out on was amazing food. I think the food was the only thing that my husband cared about throughout the entire planning process. He just let me do whatever I wanted, but we are both foodies. We love to eat, and we wanted to make sure that the food that our guests had was amazing. Because let's be real, a lot of times when you go to these big fancy wedding venues, a lot of times the food isn't very good. Usually the cocktail hour is the best part, and then the dinner is kind of just like, meh. We wanted everything to be amazing. The next thing for a backyard wedding that I think is absolutely necessary, and I will tell you, when I was first envisioning my wedding, I didn't want this. I did not want a tent. I just pictured everybody just kind of floating around in the woods and lights everywhere, and I didn't want this big ugly tent. But then I came to my senses and I was like, no, we need a tent. And let me tell you, I ended up renting 2 tents. One was very last minute. Thank goodness I did because it rained. But the tents were beautiful and we rented them from a reputable place that does weddings. So I will say this, invest in a place that has wedding tents. Like, this is their main purpose because the tents were beautiful. And honestly, I think the backyard looked even better because we had the tents. With a backyard wedding, if you don't plan on having all of your guests go inside a house, or if you have any kind of barn or whatever you have on the property, if you don't have an indoor place, you have to think about the weather. The weather is what gave me the most anxiety. I knew everything else was gonna run smoothly. I had full faith in all of my vendors and I was confident in all the planning that I did, and I just knew that it was gonna be great. I had anxiety about the weather, and that's why I ended up ordering a second tent like a month before the wedding, and thankfully I did because, like I said, it rained. It only downpoured for 10 minutes, but there was so much indoor space for people to go into. And if we didn't have those tents, then I don't know what we would have done. The next thing that in the beginning, I didn't really think that I needed, and a couple months into planning, it kind of just clicked. Like, actually, I think this would be really helpful. Oh my gosh, she was the VIP. I could not recommend this enough. Get yourself a day of coordinator. My day of coordinator literally ran the show. She saved the day. Without her, I don't think, I know the day would not have gone as smoothly as it did. I probably would have been a lot more stressed out if I didn't have her. I was able to relax. I was able to just enjoy the day and literally not have to worry about a thing. Highly, highly recommend if you want to be able to just fully enjoy the day and relax and really not be involved in anything. And my day of coordinator, I have been friends with her since we were 18. I just turned 32, so I've known her for a long time, and she was the perfect person. And if you can find someone who you know and you have a relationship with, it will make it so much better. And my last thing for today that I want to talk about, where I think it's worth spending a little bit of money on, which I wasn't going to do in the beginning. This was another freak out moment where I hired them, I think maybe 2 or 3 months beforehand, was a DJ. When I started planning, I had this whole grand idea that I didn't need a DJ, and I thought, and I still think, DJs can be really corny. Well, MCs can be really corny sometimes, especially at weddings. So I just had this idea that I could make all of these playlists and I could just get some speakers. My brother is an audio engineer, so he knows a thing or two. So I just had this idea that I could get speakers, hook everything up to my laptop, and I would have these playlists just magically playing at all the right times. And then about 2 to 3 months beforehand, I realized that because my brother told me, like, if you want to make sure that everything goes smoothly, you're gonna have to purchase a whole sound system. And I was like, I freaked out. And last minute, I hired a DJ. They were amazing and cannot recommend it more. If you're having a backyard wedding where maybe you're just having your closest family and friends, maybe it's not completely necessary, but we had about 65 people. We had cocktail hour. We had, of course, the ceremony. My dad made a speech. We had a lot of the major points of a wedding day. So it was really, really helpful to have the DJ sort of just guide everything. You know, we didn't spend an arm and a leg on the DJ, but it was an extra expense that I didn't plan to make, but that was just one of those things that it was 150% worth it. And I'm so, so happy that I hired them last minute. So now, what are some things that I think you can find cheaper alternatives for, or just do completely different than what the norm is? If you don't have a budget and you can just ball out and do whatever you want, then maybe these ideas aren't for you. But again, we were trying to, well, we ended up spending a lot more than I thought, but I think we definitely spent much, much less than if we were to have it at a big Long Island venue. That's where I live. So here are some things that I did to save a little bit of money. I didn't have a wedding planner. A wedding planner can easily cost you another couple $1,000s. Probably with a lot of venues, they may be included, but of course there's gonna be a cost to have them on. I was so fortunate that with my work schedule, essentially when I wasn't working, I was planning my wedding. So I had the time to do it. I also had the creativity to do it. I loved planning my wedding. I loved researching for hours and planning every tiny detail. I had a million lists throughout the whole process to keep me organized and exactly where the money was going, exactly what we were spending. I loved all of it. I loved getting inspiration and I loved doing a lot of DIY things. That's just how I am and that's just what I enjoy. If you feel like you're just not that kind of person, which is totally okay, planning a budget-friendly sort of DIY backyard wedding, maybe it's not for you. It might be helpful to hire someone to do it for you, but you can definitely save a lot if you do it yourself. The next thing that we didn't do what the norm is, and a lot of people probably don't agree with this, but we didn't have formal invitations. Looking back, I still do not regret it. I think formal invitations are beautiful, but in my personal opinion, we look at them, maybe we put them on the fridge. For me, I typically lose them. And invitations are pretty expensive. And that was just not a cost that I felt was worth it. So we went withjoy.com and we did all of our invitations online. All of the RSVPing was online. I built my wedding website with withjoy.com and it was all free. All of the information that anybody could have possibly needed for our wedding day was on our wedding website. And it was kind of nice just having everything automatic online and all of the RSVPs came right through the invitation. You can send reminders out for people. There might be a lot of people out there that may view that as tacky, but I didn't care. So I don't know, it's as simple as that. If that's not something that you see yourself doing, that's totally okay. But if you would love to save a lot of money, then there are resources available to do online invitations. Moving right along, another expense that we saved probably thousands of dollars on, something that I knew right from the beginning that I wanted to do it another way, was the flowers. Flowers are so expensive. You have them really beautiful for the one day, but you spent thousands and thousands of dollars on all of these flowers and then they just die. And of course it looks beautiful, but I was like, there's gotta be another way. So all of my flowers, except for the baby's breath, because I absolutely hate the way that fake baby's breath looks. All of the flowers were fake. The baby's breath was real. I found a website where I bought it in bulk and used a small fraction of what they gave me and it was a great price. But anyway, I can link that down below. I did a ton of research and trial and error on Greenery because I think a lot of times if you buy Greenery from places that aren't very good, I mean, of course it's fake, but it can look really fake. So I wanted to make sure the Greenery looked as real as possible. All of my Greenery was just eucalyptus and all of the flowers that I used were either wood flowers or these kind of foamy material flowers. This is actually my bouquet. I still have my bouquet a year and a half later. I know that with real flowers, of course, there's ways that you can preserve it and you can put it in a frame, which I think is amazing. And I may one day want to try to see if I can do that with this. Everything is fake. I actually still have the baby's breath in here, which is very dry and old, but I don't know, I think it still kind of looks good. Everything else is fake. So this right here is called a wood flower, and these are so incredibly affordable. It's absolutely ridiculous for the amount of flowers that you get. So I just got them in all different sizes. I've got these big ones, I've got these little baby ones in here, medium-sized ones, and then these white and off-white roses. These are just from Amazon, and they're kind of, I don't know, sort of foamy material. The eucalyptus is fake. I forget what this Greenery is called, but that's fake too. I will link all of the websites that I bought the flowers from and the Greenery from in the description box because they're very good quality and they're really not that expensive. But especially the wood flowers, highly recommend. They are so beautiful, they are so affordable, and technically they're kind of like a real flower. They are made from the root of a plant, which I think is really cool. I made all of the centerpieces for the tables with the fake flowers. I made my archway floral arrangement with all of the flowers and the greenery. We didn't do bridesmaids or groomsmen, so I didn't have to do those bouquets. Sorry, there's a helicopter outside. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it's really loud and annoying. I loved making all of the floral arrangements, and I loved even more saving a ton of money. Two more things that I opted to try to save a little bit of money on, and just to kind of make things a little bit easier. The second to last thing, the dance floor. I did a lot of research on trying to figure out how to get a dance floor involved, because obviously in a backyard, everything's on grass. I thought about purchasing one. I had this crazy idea of maybe we could build one, which people do, but I'm not that hands-on DIY. I thought purchasing one was too expensive. And then I saw on Pinterest that a lot of woodsy weddings actually do these antique rugs, and I fell in love with it. And this was one of those things where I brought the idea to a couple of different people, and they didn't quite understand it, but I was confident with it. And it was one of those things where I was like, I think it's gonna look good. I love the idea, so I'm just gonna go with it. I spent maybe 200 bucks on the rugs versus close to, I forget exactly how much, maybe a little bit less than $1,000 to actually rent the dance floor. So that was another option. We could have rented it from the rental company, but it was expensive. And I was like, is there a way that I can do this a little bit cheaper? Maybe, you know, if you're having 150 people at your backyard wedding, renting a dance floor might just be the easier option. Investing in that might be worth it to you. But we had 60, 65 people, and through getting inspiration, I was able to create this really cozy space with the antique rugs as the floor, and we had lots of lights and we had candles, and it was next to the fireplace, and that's what I wanted. I wanted a small dance floor, but I still wanted it to be cozy, so it worked. And the last thing that I decided to try to do it my own way and save a little bit of money was the dinnerware. This is something else that a lot of people might view as tacky, and I did sort of rethink this. I wasn't quite sure. In the beginning, I was all gung-ho about disposable dinnerware, and then I was just double guessing it, but I ended up still pushing through with the disposable dinnerware because I was like, you know, it's a backyard wedding. And I did almost rent the dinnerware from the rental company. And looking back, I don't really know if I saved a ton of money. I'm sure I saved a bit of money by doing disposable, but what I did do is I saved a headache. I was told by the rental company that all of the dinnerware had to be clean when the guys came the next day and picked everything up. And maybe the servers that we ended up hiring would have done that, but where? We were in a backyard. I didn't want to give anybody the responsibility of cleaning 65 people's cups and forks and plates. Like, that's ridiculous in my opinion. So I got all of the cups and the dinnerware and the cutlery right on Amazon. All of the plates were just a really pretty white. They were thick. The cutlery had this like cute little design on it to make it look a little fancy. And then I just had regular clear cups for water, for beer, for wine. And to me, it was just one of those things where I just didn't really think that it was a huge deal to have regular dinnerware that I would have had to have been responsible to clean before the rental company picked it up. So those are all of, I think, the main things that I did a little bit differently to try to save money here and there. Again, please do what you want. If you don't like my ideas, you don't have to do them, but at least maybe it's giving you some ideas on what you feel like are worth spending a little bit more money, things that you feel like are worth trying to DIY yourself. Everyone is different. Everybody's backyard wedding is different, and that's what makes them so special. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about today, please leave a comment. Feel free to ask. There are other videos and other details that I want to talk about with planning the backyard wedding. If you're feeling stressed about it, and if you're planning your wedding, maybe it's coming up in 2024, definitely take the time to plan, take the time to do your research, especially if you're doing a lot of DIY stuff. But it will all come together, and it's going to be so special, and it's going to be the most amazing day of your life. Everything for my wedding came together, thankfully, and it was the best day that we could have possibly asked for. It was exactly how we wanted it. We were so comfortable. We enjoyed every single second. We were so present, and everybody there had a great time. So make your wedding how you want, and just enjoy this really special time of planning your wedding. So until the next video, I will see you guys next time.